I may have a twin I never knew about. Hi, I'm Bobby. I'm a 25-year-old man. I work as a junior project manager in construction, and recently things in my life have taken a bit of a turn. This post will be quite long, because, well, I have a lot to get off my chest. I spent the first 4 years of my life in the care system. Luckily, my memories of this time are very little and there's been no lasting trauma. From what I've been told, the home in which I spent the earliest years of my life was and is well regarded for the care that it shows the children living there. At the age of 4, I was taken in by the Roberts, a husband and wife who would take presents to the children's home every Christmas, something they still do, and by the time I was 5 they had officially adopted me. From here on they'll be referred to as Ma'am, 60F, and Dad, 60M. According to my mother, they both fell in love with this shy little boy who sat in the corner on Christmas Day, while the other children couldn't contain their excitement at tearing into every box and package that they could. By New Year's Eve I was living with them. From there on I experienced a completely normal upper-middle-class upbringing. I grew up in Cardiff. Ma'am owned a chain of salons around South Wales and Dad wore a suit to work every day. I was blessed with 2 wonderful older sisters, Claire, now 42F, and Sally, now 40F, who completely doted on me. They'd take me everywhere they could, and thanks to an extended family who also showered me with love, I always, and still do, felt like I belonged. The only thing that would maybe differ from a normal upbringing would be that my sisters and I all attended private school, a day school, due to Ma'am not being able to bear the thought of being away from us. But, a private school nonetheless. My dad always said that you can't put a price on education, but he and my mother did a fantastic job in keeping us grounded. They were both from tough working class backgrounds and we were taught to appreciate everything we had, and worked for any luxuries we wanted. Another way of keeping us grounded was by getting us into boxing from as early as I could remember. You see, my dad and his best friend Jason, or Mr. James as I was taught to acknowledge him, both funded a small boxing gym in the Ely area of Cardiff where they both grew up and trained together as kids. This is what led to them forming a friendship that has lasted over 50 years. I loved it. I did well as an amateur, and at 18 represented Wales at the Commonwealth Games as a heavyweight, winning a bronze medal. I thought about turning pro after the games, but my dad talked me out of it, stressing to me the importance of putting my education first, and that he'd have no issues in supporting my career as long as I'd finish a university degree first. I didn't end up following that dream. My priorities changed after uni, and sparring with the boys at the gym is enough for me to get my fix for now. The old man and Mr. James are inseparable, and so are my mother and Mrs. James. So you can imagine their excitement when their daughter Chloe, 26F, and I announced that we were together. Due to the closeness of our parents, we spent a lot of time together growing up, and I can't deny that I always had a soft spot for Chloe, which would often be projected through childish teasing. Well, one day, Chloe and I were at the gym. I would have been 15 at this point, and she'd had enough of my wind-ups and demanded that we get in the ring. I agreed, saying that I'd keep my hands behind my back, and if she could land a punch within a minute I'd stop the teasing. If she couldn't, she'd let me take her out. Well, I danced around for 60 seconds without her laying a hand on me. As the timer rang to signal that a minute was up, she landed a right hook that Mike Tyson would have been proud of. Nose bleeding, pride hurting, I got to my feet. She approached, wiped the blood away, then kissed me softly on the lips. 10 years later, we've been married 3 years and have twins, Seren, 2F, Welsh for star, and Llew, 2M, Welsh for lion. I love her with all my heart. So yeah, pretty normal upbringing. So here's the not so normal part. During the earlier mentioned conversation with my dad around me going pro as a boxer, he revealed to me why he really wanted me to focus on my education and what he really does for work. You see, growing up in a working class family in Ely, opportunities to succeed at the time were few and far between. Due to their backgrounds as boxers, Dad and Jason, Mr. James, were recruited by some older gentlemen who were involved with the local nightlife to work as bouncers in the city center. From there they were introduced to people working within organized crime who soon took them on as enforcers. Dad and Jason soon moved up the ranks to where they now have their own syndicate working around the South Wales area. He didn't go into any further detail but shared that this was something he's always waited until his kids were 18 to tell them. He's still Dad. I don't see him any differently, but obviously it was a shock to find out at the time. Now to the reason I need to vent. On Friday last week, I came home to absolute silence, no toddlers running around my feet, no music, no telly, silence. I walked up the stairs and approached the bedroom where I could hear muffled sobs. I opened the door and could see Chloe there. She was crying into her pillow. I called her name and she looked up. I could see her eyes red and soaked from crying. I asked what was wrong, but before I could say another word, she hit me with one of those right hooks she'd caught me with 10 years ago. She began screaming at me, telling me she saw me, that I know what I did. I managed to calm her down and asked her to explain what she meant. She pulls her phone out and shows me a picture of me and another woman sat at a table at a cafe in town, then another of me kissing said woman. I was dumbfounded. The man in the picture was identical to me, my complete double in every feature. I was dumbfounded, but managed to log onto the CCTV from my work that clearly shows that I was on site all day. Chloe apologized for hitting me, but honestly I couldn't blame her. I'd have been absolutely crushed if I was in her position, and fair play to her, she's still got it. We racked our brains for a while on who that man could be. Chloe eventually looked at me and said, "Bobs, you're adopted. What if you have a twin? We've got twins and they can be hereditary." Honestly, that question has sat with me ever since. I've always had such a great relationship with my family that I've never put much thought about my biological parents or any possible siblings. For the first time in my life, I feel slightly lost.